Good afternoon. Thank you for joining INSA today for Wednesday Wisdom. I'd now like to introduce INSA President Suzanne Wilson Heckenberg.
Thank you and good afternoon. I really appreciate over 500 registrants joining us today for INSA's second installment of Wednesday Wisdom. We've really enjoyed coming together as a team to bring you all these virtual programs. We're pleased to host one of our community's top leaders for a conversation today on humility and leadership during these challenging times. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items I wanted to share with you. In the bottom right-hand corner of your screen is a question box. I would encourage you to include your organization and your name when posing a question. And also as a reminder, today's program is on the record, and we have several individuals from the press joining us. Before we get started with Sue, I wanted to take a moment and thank CACI, our sponsor for today's program. I'm pleased to have Don Paul Rance, a business development executive at CACI here to introduce Sue today. Don Paul, over to you.
CACI is pleased to participate in the program today. It's critical for us to remain connected during these challenging times. On behalf of CACI, I'd like to thank INSA for hosting today's conversation. CACI is a proud INSA member and a national security company with 23,000 employees serving across the globe. We deliver unique expertise in advanced technology and disciplines that include artificial intelligence, secure cloud solutions, full spectrum cyber, agile development, intelligence analysis, and automation. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker. As Director of the Analysis Directorate at NGA, Sue Kalweit is responsible for leading the agency's geo-analytic capabilities and resources, as well as modernizing its analytic efforts. Previously, Sue spent her early career at NGA and its predecessor organizations before joining the industry as a senior business manager for 12 years. She also served as a volunteer member of USGIF's Academic Advisory Committee, through which she helped lead the establishment of GEOINT accreditation and certification programs at the collegiate level. Welcome, Sue, and we're looking forward to what promises to be a thoughtful conversation. Over to you, Suzanne.
Great, thanks, Don Paul, and thank you again to CACI for your support. So we've had a good time, I think, some of us connecting on some of the prep calls, talking about what Sue wanted to discuss today, and what she shared with us during the prep call is humility and leadership, and how that ties in to being a good leader during these times of transition and tumultuousness that we're all living in. So Sue, I know you wanted to share some words of wisdom with the group first, and then we'll dive into some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. And Don, thanks so much for that introduction. So typically, if I'm in a meeting these days, or if I'm getting together with anybody in a small, intimate setting, the first thing I would do is what Admiral Sharp calls a buddy check. Well, we're in a little bit more than just a small, intimate setting, but I still think that I would like to check in with everybody. So using the poll function that we have through this, I want to ask you to respond to how you're feeling. How are you doing? On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being stressed, really overwhelmed, a 3 being, hey, I'm good, and a 5 being enthusiastic and I'm ready to take on the world. So please just take a moment and respond to that poll. So while everybody's doing that, I again, Suzanne, want to thank you and everyone at INSA for making this virtual speaker series, Wednesday Wisdom, possible. I'm humbled to be sandwiched between Ellen and Sue, who are 2 women that I truly, truly admire in our community. And today, I want to share what I'm learning about the power of humility as what I'll call a superpower for leading people and driving mission outcomes during any times, but especially in the kind of uncertain and unprecedented times that we're living in right now. I want to begin with a quote by William James, who is a leading thinker from the late 19th century and one of the most influential philosophers of the United States. And that quote is, "Begin to be now what you will be hereafter." I share this quote because as I reflect on who I was as a leader pre-COVID and who I'm becoming as a leader, I'm feeling a really positive shift in me that I want to keep and take into our new beginning. I started today by stating that humility is becoming my new leadership superpower. And I want to define humility for you as the intentional behavior of continuously learning from each other in a psychologically safe environment where everyone's ideas, regardless of title, rank, or expertise, has merit. I hope my talk today is consistent with my definition of humility and that it achieves the Wednesday wisdom goal of creating an opportunity to share and learn from each other. 9/11 certainly shook me to the core, and many of you I know share my experience, but some of you on this webinar may not. My children, for example, now ages 28 and 22, only remember the impact it had on them personally. My oldest wondered, why are all his friends' parents picking them up at school and mine aren't? And my youngest only remembers blackout curtains on the daycare windows. Well, today, they have a where were you when story to share for years to come. We all do. Everyone around the world does. For example, a couple weeks ago and then again last night, I participated in a virtual mindfulness program. And in a breakout room, I met a woman who lives in Vancouver, Canada. And as we shared our stories of what we're doing during COVID, she remarked at how exceptional these times are, that from such a distance, we share a common feeling and a common experience. Feelings, emotions, empathy, shared experiences. That's what I've been learning leadership is about. Robert Anderson and William Adams, in their book, Mastering Leadership, describe two types of leadership competencies. One, the outside game, and two, the inside game. Simply put, the outside game is what we sometimes refer to as the science of leadership, and the inside game is the leadership of our consciousness, what drives us as leaders, and how we behave as our authentic self. I personally find the inside game much, much more difficult to practice than the outside game. I have to be willing and able to be vulnerable with, accessible to, and transparent with everyone above, on either side, and below me. I have to openly admit, I don't know it all. I have to genuinely engage and relate with others at a human level, regardless of who they are, where they come from, what their background or status is. And I have to include everyone in problem solving and creating the solutions that we need to succeed today. For me, the inside game is what it means to practice humility. I now want to share how I've come to realize humility as my superpower for leadership. As events unfolded in the first weeks of COVID-19 crisis, it became clear to me that the biggest battle I was facing, was helping my team adapt to our emerging, quote, new normal. It would be a leadership challenge I had no prior experience to draw from, and I lead the largest number of people I've ever led in any prior job. I have thousands of teammates, and they live and work around the world. And as guidance on what NGA was doing began to emerge, every day felt as though that day's guidance or policy contradicted the day before's. Our professional and personal lives were chaotic, scary, and stressful. And as humans, we had a heightened sense of fight or flight. Now, that's a normal reaction in a high stress, highly chaotic, and uncertain environment. But I realized that the behaviors associated with fight and flight, those emotions would not serve us well in our responsibility as guardians of our nation's security. This was my true leadership challenge. How do I help my very large, highly dispersed and diverse team transcend the scary, chaotic, and stressful times we were living in and come out the other side stronger and feeling that we did everything right to protect ourselves, our families, our communities, and our nation, not only from the virus, but also from other adversaries who still had a say on actions they could take against us. I realized that my recent training in executive coaching gave me skills and understanding that I could apply to help my team reframe their current situation of uncertainty and fear into one of opportunity for creating something new and something positive. I also knew that the key to my team adapting to that reframe was to look inside myself first in order to relate to my teammates on a very genuine human level and create the trust that's needed for my team to follow me to a new place. I had to start with looking at how I was feeling and how my emotions controlled my behavior and actions. And then I needed to share that with my team. On March 30th, immediately following the first week of COVID planning, where we designated teammates as either emergency essential, mission critical, or part of our healthy reserve, I sent the following to all of my supervisory teammates. Our mission today is to ensure a healthy reserve. This means that as supervisors, we must stay home. We must stay home even when our teammates are at work in the building, NGAs, or our partners. On my way out of the building last Wednesday, I wanted to stop by the Ops Center and thank our emergency essential teammates who are coming into the building every day to stand the watch. It was so hard to walk by the doors, and there are several, and remind myself that I cannot be that one person who brings the virus into the watch. It could wipe out an entire team. So I walked by, staring at the door and wishing silently to myself for all to be well and all to stay healthy. It wasn't easy at first to draw on how I was feeling and share that with my team. I probably wrote and rewrote a dozen versions of that email until I finally got out what I was really feeling and what it meant to me in the context of my responsibility to our mission. It was scary pressing the send button. What will my teammates think of me? Is this the leadership I should show? Optimism. Optimism has always been my strongest leadership quality. It's what I always believed was my superpower. In this note, it didn't feel very optimistic. Well, maybe it wasn't optimistic, but it was powerful. The overwhelming positive feedback I received made me recognize that transparency and vulnerability about who I am and what I'm feeling would be the leadership skills I needed to bring to this fight through frequent communications. I then thought about it and understood the power of the inside game of leadership. The inside game of leadership as that secret weapon that we needed to use. That is, for me, I realized humility as my superpower for leading, especially in a time of crisis. Since that first email to all of my supervisors, I added to my toolkit of communications, to my toolkit of communication channels, weekly all hands or all analysis town halls via a video and voice conferencing system, frequent all analysis and all analysis supervisory emails, bi-weekly open office hours. In fact, I had one today. And through a voice conferencing system that I belong, the open office hours through voice conferencing. And then I must belong to at least 30 different chat channels. And I have daily direct messaging conversations with teammates from all over. I use my town hall and the many chat channels I'm in to ask for input on what our recovery and reconstitution will look like and what it would include and what it should feel like. I, at one point, asked teammates on several different chat channels to say, tell me on a curve of 1 to 5, how are you feeling? I will sometimes just pop into chat threads talking about the weather, challenges with children at home while teleworking, foods we're eating, exercise routines or aspirations for exercising, challenges with getting into our unclassified email system, and I personally have asked for help myself on these channels as well, and many other items that teammates just want to talk about to connect. I also engage in mission-related chats on new initiatives that we're pushing, successes and challenges we're facing doing our mission on the unclassified fabric. I'm engaging with my workforce in ways that I never, quite frankly, have been able to do before, and with many more teammates than I've been able to talk to before. It's awesome. It really is. In each engagement, what I seek most to glean out of the details of what anyone is the details of what they're doing, But more importantly, how are they feeling? And how is each teammate and their family doing? I'm finding these to be the most critical insights to leading our team through these turbulent waters. Humility, that is learning from others, making it safe to talk about anything and everything, and giving voice to everyone's ideas. That has become my leadership superpower and what I want to carry forward as a leader into our new beginning in the post-COVID environment. Thank you. Yes, Suzanne, back to you.
Thank you. I am standing by for a notification from my screen. There we go. Thank you, team. Okay, appreciate that. So I have a question that we received previously from an INSA member, and it kind of ties into one of the things that I wanted to ask you, but it's from Michael Barr at Adobe. And Michael asks, he mentions that he would enjoy your thoughts on leading and inspiring a workforce through a crisis such as this pandemic. Have there been any surprises? And so I think part of what you said that you've done during this time is kind of checking in and polling folks. And we'll go back to the poll that we did shortly, but want to hear a little bit more from you about how your leadership style has changed even more so.
Yeah, I think the biggest aha moment for me came after the first virtual town hall that we had. And it was a little rocky in the sense that learning the etiquette of muting your mic definitely takes some learning. So there was a lot of extraneous noise. But we had over 1,000 teammates join that first town hall. And it was the first time where I really expressed sort of how I'm feeling and what I recognize other folks are feeling. And then went on to talk about what's NGA doing around COVID-19 and what are we doing to kind of get our mission started, which at the very, very beginning was just, what are we doing to get folks set up to operate on the unclassified fabric? And the feedback of, this is so helpful. We so appreciate the information and just being able to ask questions. And what I've seen over time is we hold these town halls. I hold them on Monday afternoon so that we can include folks who, one, in the mornings are chaotic with their families, but by the afternoon, there's a little bit of free time. And also in the afternoons, we can get our team that's out in Hawaii. And then I do it again on Tuesday mornings so that we can get our teams that are in Europe, as well as anybody who has family where their kids are still asleep in the mornings first thing. And I've noticed a significant drop off in the number of questions, not necessarily the number of people who are joining, still getting the same number of people, but the number of questions, which makes me feel like the variety of communications mechanisms, and it's not just the town hall. We have an amazing Intel share site with information posted on it, all the chat rooms that we have set up. So just the fact of the multiple ways of sharing information, putting information out there, and creating open communications has really allowed the team to then start using their creative minds. And the pace at which we've picked up on doing mission type work has just been extraordinary. And I really owe that a big thanks to my communications team and my staff for helping to make all the communications channels possible so that we can get on with our mission.
So what I'm hearing is you're a really good caretaker. You're taking care of your workforce and you're learning from it. And we have the poll, if you all want to bring up the poll on how everybody's doing from 1 to 5, but how are you doing on a scale of 1 to 5?
Yeah, so I will definitely say I am in that 4 category, and sometimes I'm in that 5 category. I'm just loving the interaction with the team. As I said, it's been more interaction in terms of amount of time during the day, as well as the number of people, and just being able to connect and learn more a little bit about who everybody is individually and what we're working on, and be able to share in idea generation. For me, is just a really positive experience. And so that part of my day is a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying that. And I'm also making sure to take care of myself and not spend 12, 14 hours
Yeah,
just tied to the computer, because that's so easy to do when you're teleworking.
it is. It is. And I think you're also even doing more CrossFit than before, possibly even outside when the weather's good.
Yeah, thanks. I have not let my CrossFit routine go down. I generally am doing an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. There is a rest day that I put in there. For folks who are into CrossFit, they may have also participated in a global competition that CrossFit.com offered, and it was 3 weeks, three different events, if you will, that week. And I'm proud to say that at the end of those 3 weeks, I was 128th out of almost 2,000 women my age in the world. So
Wow.
I'm pretty happy with being able to keep up with my routine and keep that part of me that's really important going.
Well, and like you said, you have to make it a priority, and send yourself a calendar invite even, so you'll log off of the computer for a little while. So you mentioned something earlier about a virtual mindfulness seminar. Can you tell us a little more about that, maybe for folks who are looking for that sort of peace and sustenance for their soul, so to speak?
Yeah, Suzanne, thanks for asking. And this will also, I'll share a little bit about myself. I don't like yoga because I don't like sort of getting into like who I am and being still with that. So when my executive coach said, you should really try this mindfulness, seminar that's online, I think it would be good for you. I was like, all right, I'll stretch, right? Move outside my comfort zone. It's good for everybody.
Right.
So the first one I did was 2 weeks ago, and it's an hour and 15 minutes. It involves a little bit of discussion at the beginning on what the topic, and I did it again last night. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about our body and just getting in touch with our body and what's going on. And last night it was about our emotions and getting in touch with our emotions. There's 2 about 10-minute meditation sessions where you just sit quietly, and this is typically the part that I don't like, right? You just sit quietly.
Ooh, yeah.
And the lead of this is just sort of talking slowly. Last night it was about, reaching into emotions that you have, and she was listing a bunch of them. And what I found was 2 weeks ago, that night I had the best sleep I've had in weeks. And last night I reached a sense of sort of peacefulness that I hadn't really felt before. So I'm starting to think that maybe maybe I am liking this actually.
That's interesting. So along the vein of mindfulness and CrossFit and staying healthy, one of your colleagues, Sandra Octor, is asking you if you think it's been easier to talk to your workforce and peers about self-care, nutrition, emotional well-being during this crisis than pre-pandemic, so to speak.
Yeah. So easier, that's always been exercise, nutrition, taking care of yourself. I feel, I like to think that I've always been a model of that ever since I began. I remember one of the first things I told Robert Cardillo, the former director, is so long as if you want to hire me, know that I'm going to eat during meetings, because I eat according to a time of day and what I'm supposed to, it's a nutrition plan that I have. But I will say that it is easier to talk about it now from the standpoint of the workforce is listening for it more. The topic of resilience and having to take care of ourselves. And Admiral Sharp was very clear at the beginning, the importance of taking care of ourselves and the resiliency tools. And so that opened up the aperture for me to not just talk, but I think also for folks to ask and to want to know more. And part of that was I actually put together and, if you will, published an exercise guide. So exercises that teammates could do at home, to include little competitions that you could do with your family. Again, just to show that this is important to me, and so I want it to be important to you to help.
Well, kind of a silver lining that you've been able to communicate that even more. So you talked a little bit about the inside game and the outside game, and I think you said you felt more comfortable with the inside. Could you just give us a little higher level of detail on what the differences are?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, it's a great book, and I think, Suzanne, that I gave you some information to post on your resources. But the outside game is what we learn when we go to leadership training, right? It is the skills, the how do you manage and lead a team sort of thing. The inside game is more about recognizing who you are. What are your values? Searching inside of you, and then recognizing how do your behaviors and actions and what you role model match your values, and how consistent are you in doing that, and how do you apply who you are, your authentic self, in the way that you engage with your team, make decisions with your team, operate and model certain behaviors. And so it's the difference between behaving according to what a book says versus behaving according to what your true values are and who you are as your authentic self.
That helps a lot. And so you mentioned that humility was one of your superpowers, I think. I think CrossFit would be another superpower. Any other superpowers you have discovered during this time or previously?
Yeah, well, I'll say the reason why I choose superpowers, and many of you know my other love, which is Disney. So my ideal event would be a CrossFit competition at Disney World in their ABC Wide World of Sports area, followed by their International Food and Wine Festival. So you do the competition and then you drink all that you want. But the part that really resonates for me with Disney is the creativity and the imagination. The way that they use creativity to create emotions and to create an experience for their visitors to the parks, for the movies that they create. And so many of the movies just have such important messages that it's that creative part that really resonates with me, and wanting to bring that out, that innovation and creativity out in our team, that I always strive to do as well.
I love that combination. There is that goofy marathon in Disney, a little bit different than CrossFit, where I guess you run a half and then a whole, or a whole and then a half. So I've got a question here, totally shifting gears. It's from a student at Clemson University, and he wants to know about looking for jobs in the intelligence community. Are there any insights that you can provide during this time? I mean, I've talked with a couple of, his name is Grant Allard from Clemson. What advice do you have for your young professionals starting their careers in the IC? It's a little different, I think, than it was 6 weeks ago. And I hear that government is still hiring some, and industry.
Yeah, so one thing that I will always tell college students is, if you're interested in the IC, apply for internships. And typically the internships end the fall before the summer that you would want to do it. Now, unfortunately, this summer, because of COVID, we're going to be at NGA very, very limited in the intern program that we do. But it's a great way to try before you buy. We get to try you, and you get to try us in terms of the future. If you're a graduating senior from college and you're interested in the Intel community, what I can say is the good news is, if you don't already have a clearance, it's a 9 to 12 month process anyway to get a clearance, so we wouldn't have been able to hire you right now. So the best thing to do is to go online you can start at nga.mil and apply through there. You'll go to careers, and then you'll see there's a dual seals there, an ODNI seal, as well as I think an NSA seal, and that just takes you to the Intel community writ large for looking at what jobs, what types of roles are available, and for applying. I always encourage students, apply to every agency. You don't know which one is going to have the first opening, and the great thing about the Intel community is that we are a community, and there's a lot of movement through the community. So you may come in at DIA and end up at NGA, which is exactly what my deputy did. He started off in DIA, and he's been an NGA now for quite some time. So that's the best advice. I also would offer, if you wanted to talk to me individually, I have a profile on LinkedIn. If you go to that profile on LinkedIn and just send me a message, I'd be happy to follow up with you either by phone or by Zoom or something else. Thanks. So Suzanne, I can't hear you right now.
How about now?
Now I got it, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, there was some feedback. So Paul Ingold of Guidehouse asked a question that ties in quite well to that. And he wants to know how your engagement with your young employees has changed since your own daughters have entered the workforce.
Yeah.
And I'm a mother of 3 daughters, so I will really value your response.
Yeah, so that's great. And hi, Paul, it's great to hear from you. So my son has definitely entered the workforce, and he's been working for the Disney Corporation, actually. And my daughter is about to enter the workforce as she graduates from UVA in just another couple weeks, in fact. We're very excited about that. But the question being, I've got workforce coming in that are my kids' age, and that's that's actually really exciting for me. I love nurturing and helping to promote our workforce of the future. I mean, the folks who are coming in now are the future of our GEOINT mission, of our nation's security. I have some time left, but not as long as they certainly have. And so I feel it's really important to help guide and mentor. And one of the things I always offer personally is for whether they're an intern or a new employee, if they want to shadow me, spend a day and just shadow and kind of see what's the life of the director of analysis like. I welcome that, and I always enjoy talking with them afterwards. What did you learn? What did you take away? As well as an opportunity for a mentoring session. So it's really great.
Very generous of you. Do they get to work out with you?
I always offer that. I've had a couple work out. I actually, on Tuesday afternoons at the gym in NGA prior to COVID, I player coach a CrossFit workout. So I had about 5 regulars. Sometimes we got up to as many as 8 folks. And Tanya Pemberton, when she was the director of CIOT, she was one of my first athletes to join me in doing that. And we have a good time. So we work out for about an hour and 15 minutes. It's a lot of fun on Tuesdays.
It's a good opportunity that you provide them. So Courtney Clatterbuck wants to know how you will prioritize staying connected among your teammates, both juniors, peers, and seniors, once we return back to whatever the new normal of our in-person work schedule is going to be. I think, it's different. Sometimes for me and my team, I feel that the outreach I am doing virtually is more intentional, and it's probably more organic when I'm in the office just because of proximity. So curious how you're going to hopefully be able to transition to that sometime in the near future.
Yeah, so I will say that pre-COVID, my engagement with the workforce was very intentional. It was driven by my calendar. So for anybody who thought I didn't get out of my office, I got out of my office a lot, just into meetings. Every meeting room at NGA. And the times when I actually could engage with analysts, desk sides, was mostly when I would go visit our support teams at the various commands and agencies, because my schedule wasn't, it was then purposefully created to do that. It wasn't driven by other people's meetings that I would have to attend. So the question that you're asking is, how do I take what I've discovered during this period of being able to drop in, right, into a chat room, being able to just reach out. And I have no idea, quite frankly, you know, what band level anybody is or what role they are. I'm like, if it's an interesting, you know, discussion, I'm going to drop in on it. How do I take that and make that happen when we get back into the throes of meeting after meeting after meeting? And I think it's going to come down to, I can't keep going to just meeting after meeting, and being more thoughtful about what meetings must I attend and how do I maintain through this virtual approach a way to continue to connect. And it's not just for me, I'm also asking my teammates the same, because they've been able to create collaborative teams for doing mission projects that before they never did. They didn't do it because, you know, you only talk to your branch members who were in your building. And now they're doing projects with teammates who are in different buildings, different geographies, different time zones, right? And so my challenge and my question and my desire, quite frankly, for all of us is, how do we bring that sense of connectivity, collaboration, and community into our new normal in the post-COVID environment?
So along those lines, one of your colleagues, Nancy at NGA, she wants to know what you think will be the most significant change for the analysis mission after the agency reconstitutes, and how you think the workforce will adapt to that. Thanks for the question, Nancy.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy, for that. So I think one of the biggest aha moments, and I say that because one of the questions I put out there to the whole of the workforce was to share with me, what do you think, what do you see, what do you envision, what do you feel that this post-COVID environment is going to be, and send me a word cloud. And the words that came back were words like continuity, safety, telework, flexibility. Right? Those were not words that we would have said prior to COVID. So I think there's going to be a number of behavioral changes, starting with, when we start coming back, everybody's going to be wearing a mask, certainly for some amount of time. And that's a behavior that is not what we have traditionally done. That's a new behavior for us in the workplace, along with the social distancing and making that part of our everyday work life. So that's one behavior, that's a physical behavior. But the behavior of inclusivity, of collaboration, of reaching out and engaging whomever was willing to participate, and whoever was contributing, you know, their knowledge and expertise, and being really open to that, that's a behavior we absolutely need to continue. Right. And it also is a difficult behavior, mostly from the standpoint of, it's so easy to just reach to who's ever physically nearest to you. And it wasn't until we're dispersed and there was no physical nearness that we suddenly realized everybody could be near us through virtual. How do we take that, both the behavior as well as the mechanisms to make that nearness, so that distance, geography, and geography can be the 5th floor versus the 6th floor at NCE, quite frankly, go away. So I think that's another one that is going to be critically important for us to continue, and will be a new behavior that we're going to have to practice when we first get back.
So the next question is from my boss, Tish Long, so I think I need to ask it. How has analysis changed with a lot of your workforce telecommuting at NGA?
Yeah, so I'm gonna believe, Tish, that your question was, how has our analytic mission changed as opposed to the people? We've talked a lot about, how the people have changed, right? And so how has analysis changed? And this gets to the heart of 85% of my workforce working from home, right? They're home base. And the mission that we've taken on, the realization of what we can do, what we're able to do, and the impact that it can have of working on the unclassified fabric. So we've been able to develop and push forward a number of what we call mission initiatives. So work that is really contributing to our mission, where we're realizing real efficiencies of doing that work on the unclassified fabric. There's some work that we did that was unclassified, but inside the four walls. And, it's a struggle sometimes to get to the data or to the tools or the resources. And now that's like wide open. And so we're really seeing some efficiencies, and we're like, well, we should just continue efficiencies like that. I mean, if we've got to do it, let's do it through a telework. And then we're also realizing the power of having access to that data as a starting point for some of our analysis, that then, pushing it up to the classified for finishing and adding that extra special sauce that we have that's making a difference in the quality of our analysis. So we've got some projects going on with that. We also are working some projects that are related to our AAA efforts and working with commercial imagery and building some training data sets, which is the long pole in the tent in terms of having algorithms that can operate for what we want. But I think this whole discovery of what's possible and what we can do more efficiently has been a big aha moment for many of us. And the creativity that I'm seeing every week, the number of teams and people who are coming forward with ideas is increasing, and that's very energizing.
That's very encouraging. And I just looked at the clock. It's amazing how quickly 45 minutes flies by. But Robert Milford is asking a question about, after COVID-19, how will you continue to encourage and harvest the value communications you are now receiving from those who would not ordinarily be directly part of your audience? And I'm happy, real quick, to take a shot at that. INSA's had to pivot to this virtual programming. And so I don't think post-pandemic, all of our programming would be virtual, but we would be thrilled to continue to provide this platform to you and other leaders of the intelligence community to engage beyond just your workforce and your agency, or even a live workforce. I think in this virtual format, we might reach people that normally we don't have the opportunity to. So I think I answered Robert's question for me, but I'll turn it over to you as the panel.
No, I second that. I think now that we've discovered the power of these virtual platforms to reach beyond our walls, if you will, I fully expect to continue using these in a number of ways, both on the unclassified fabric as well as back in our classified spaces.
Well, I know it's been a learning curve for a lot of us, but I think well worth the time that we've all invested in getting accustomed to adapting to the technology. So can't thank you enough for joining us today. I've enjoyed our chat prior to this and today as well. And I'm very appreciative of CACI and Don Paul Rance for joining us. I did want to mention that we will continue to host these webinars next week. Sue Gordon will be joining us. And then on May 5th, we're kicking off our Tuesdays Coffee and Conversations with Kevin Miners. And so registration is open for that event. You'll find a whole lineup of our virtual events on the website. I hope everyone stays safe. And my tagline is stay sane as well. So thanks so much for joining us today, everybody. Have a good evening, Sue, and a good workout.
Thanks. Be well and stay healthy. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.